Welcome back to Behind the Checkout, the podcast where I explore the ideas and innovations shaping the future of payments. I'm John Lunn, CEO and one of the founders of Gr4vy. Today, we're asking, are payments still just about moving money, or have they become the key to truly knowing your customer? In a world where transactions generate data and data unlocks loyalty, personalization, and smarter strategies, payments are becoming less about the checkout itself and more about what comes after. To unpack this shift, I'm joined by someone who's been driving payment strategy and customer-focused innovation for years, Galit Shani-Michel, VP of Payments at Gr4vy. Great to have you here. Let's dive in.
Hi, John. Thank you so much for bringing me here.
Okay, let's start at the beginning. Payments and fraud, I should say, have been seen as the last step in a transaction. And when we talk about payments and fraud, we're not just talking about the payload, the 16-digit BIN number, the expiry date, etc. We're talking about all of the data that's been gathered during the payment process. And that could be for anti-fraud reasons, that could be for many other reasons. But it is the stage at the end of a transaction or end of a customer interaction where data is gathered. Why do you believe suddenly now payments have become central to understanding who the customer is?
That's a really good question. And I think more than anything, businesses and merchants are starting for the past years already to view payments not just as a cost center and something that they need to do, but as a critical step, because where the customer puts all the efforts to go and choose what they want to buy, and they put the time and effort, and then they get to the checkout, and the checkout is declined, we are seeing 70% of them will not come back to that website. And the variety over the years is just growing and growing, and your ability to get the same product somewhere else, like so easily, makes that competition really, really big. And for customers, they expect to get the service that they want to get. They expect it to be easy. They expect it to be immediate. And they are not going to try to understand why the transaction got declined. They would just go and buy somewhere else. And they will go to buy. And the payment experience became one of these things they expect to happen easily and fast, like the rest of the flow on the side. So we are seeing merchants that are overdoing 3DS in Europe, not leveraging exemptions. They provide a bad experience at the end of the day in the checkout because someone needs to now cooperate with the 3DS and wait for the SMS in many cases. Why wouldn't they buy somewhere else that they can just buy without it? Or if we think about one-click checkout, tokenization, all of that, I always hate it when I have to pay for internet during the flight and I actually have to type my card. And I need to go get my wallet from my bag and to type my card. So that's an example where I don't really have a choice, but the experience needs to be really good. And it's important. It's important to distinguish between the customers and to know that it's a return customers and to provide them a one-click checkout because you know them already and you know their card. Why would you make them type the card again? And you know what payment methods they like to use. And again, the variety is just getting bigger all the time. They shouldn't be seeing all these payment methods that are irrelevant for them. They want to see that you know them. And even when they get to the checkout, they want to see that you know them. And if you know what payment method they like and how they paid before, that also means that you know them and you're not making it difficult for them. I always hate it. Why would you do 3DS to me? I buy here all the time. Are you still scared of me? What's happening? So I think that really can send either the right message to your good customers, or the wrong message to your good customers that you still don't identify them as loyal customers.
So all of the data that's been gathered during transaction, and many of the people listening to the podcast won't be sure how much data is actually gathered for anti-fraud and payment purposes. But that data comes in and needs to be gathered and can be used for more than just, guaranteeing the payment or checking the payment is valid. Now, how do you see all of that data, all of those elements intersecting with customer experience?
It's a really good question. So I think payment data is about transactions. And managing payment for many years, it was always about transaction. What's your auth rate per transaction? How do you look at transaction, decline transaction, approve transaction? Even when you talk to PSPs, the way to look at the data is always according to transactions. But in reality, behind these transactions, there is a consumer. And there is a consumer that has, we call it an intent, has an intent to buy something and he's trying to buy, and maybe he got a decline and maybe he came back again after a few minutes, after a few hours, and he still wants to buy after it failed before. And if you have this ability to understand that it's the same consumer with the same intent, you can make actually a different payment routing decision. As an example, when it tries again, because you already know that you tried to ask for exemption in Europe, but the bank declined it. Or you already know you tried to route it to one of the processors, but it didn't work. So your ability to know when it comes back that this is the same person and to take into consideration what happened before and didn't work, that will help you improve a lot the conversion of that second attempt. So this is one thing. But the other thing that is really, really critical here, and you mentioned it, is the customer experience. So fraud is critical and you have to stop the fraud. But when merchants actually deal properly with the fraud and they don't have a fraud problem anymore or fraud pressure anymore, the next thing that they have to worry about, especially now, is the customer experience. And they're coming up with a lot of different like promotion and programs and loyalty programs and different things that they can offer, from instant refund to like different programs. And they need to know who they can give this experience to, because they can't give it to everybody, because there are some people that will abuse this experience, that will get the instant refund and will return stones instead of what they actually purchased. So this ability to actually give the right customer experience to your loyal customers, to know what they expect from you, to make sure that they get the best treatment, to be able to give the best birthday coupon code, because you're not scared that someone will celebrate his birthday every day now. That is the ability to really understand your data and really understand the identity behind every interaction, to understand who is behind that interaction, and are they a legit good customer? Are they someone that is always abusing the promo code? Is it a reseller? Is it someone that is trying to come and buy all of your limited item that you just limited edition that you just put today, and you don't want to allow it? And you have to understand identities to be able to deal with all this complexity. You cannot just understand transaction. You have to know that I did not use this promo code yet. And if I created 10 accounts, you have to know that all these 10 accounts is me and not let me use that promo code again. So it cannot be any more about transaction. It must be about the identity behind every interaction. It can be the checkout. It can be any post-purchase like return, a request for a refund. You need to know if it's a good customer, you want to give them the refund so they are happy because they actually have a real problem, or they are trying to win their money back by asking you for this refund.
So in some of the anti-fraud world, we always, they say that if you work in anti-fraud, everyone's a fraudster, right? You spend your whole time like looking for bad guys. But actually, there's a very positive side to this. So one thing that's always driven me slightly crazy is loyalty programs, right? The fact that they're so disconnected from transactions in most cases. So they make you carry a loyalty card with a completely different number on it, or here they make you use your phone number everywhere. God forbid you ever change your phone number, because you are so screwed, and trying to get that phone number updated is so painful. But if you know who the customer is, haven't you solved that problem already, right? So let's turn the question, rather than looking for bad guys, what can you do with this data once you know someone is a good guy, or once you've identified this person is who they say they are, right? Loyalty is the first place to start with. What else can we do with this data?
So I would actually start being a payment person from the payment process, you want to give a frictionless experience. And you don't want to ask them for 3DS, even if the amount is very, very high, because you trust them. And you want to know who they really are, because you don't want to know that my mom, which is more than 70, she's not having a good time with 3DS. It's not working for her. But maybe she's buying for a very high amount. But if you understand the context and you know she's never been doing anything bad in her life, and you know that she's maybe an older person, and there is all this discussion about like accessibility, and like 3DS is not really accessible for some of the population. So if you understand that and you're not afraid of her and there is no regulation and you know it's going to be very hard for her to do it, why ask her for a 3DS? So I always give that example because she's calling me when there is a 3DS to help her finish the purchase. And I find it's very, yeah, very annoying. But also, if you think about friction, then you can look at the whole funnel. And the friction starts when you open an account and you have to verify it with your email or phone or different things. And sometimes when you want to log in, you have to start all this verification. And sometimes you want to return it and they make your life very, very hard. So the friction starts to come in many, many different shapes and forms. And your ability to understand. And it's all starts from like how scared are you from this person to abuse you or be a fraud. And even there is a fine line between what is fraud and what is abuse. But your ability to know that you can trust this person, that it's a good person. And most of your people are good in the merchant. Most like the 80-90% of the customers, they are good. You don't need to annoy them when they open an account. You don't need to annoy them when they log in. You don't need to annoy them when they pay. And when they ask for a refund, you just want to give them the refund because it means something actually went wrong and you want them to be really happy that you give them the refund immediately. So when you think about all this frictionless flow, for me, the good customer experience starts from a frictionless flow everywhere. It also continues with your ability to give them like good offers. So they are loyal customers and you want to make sure that you can give them really good promotions because you're not scared that they are taking advantage of you with these promotions. It's even related to like, let's say you're something like a limited item that you put on sale. You want your customers that come to the site after you announce that today it will be available. You want it to be available. You don't want John to come in and buy all of it and sell it tomorrow. And I just came in today. I was waiting for a month and now it's finished. So again, it comes back to the ability to understand who is the customer behind their interaction. And if there is a reseller, what do you want to allow this reseller to do? And resellers are good, but what do you want to allow this reseller to do? And some people want to return something and it's okay. But if they want to return everything that they buy, maybe it's not that great anymore. So I think it's about the whole experience. When it comes to payment, I would also say personalization. You know how they like to buy. So let them pay how they like to pay. And make it easy for them.
And I think a really good example of this is something that we know in payments, which is, account update or network tokens, etc. Like one of the things that happens very commonly is once a year, someone steals a credit card number or guesses it and goes off shopping. And then the next 3 months, every subscription you have fails for the merchants that aren't using account updater or using a decent tool. And I've always appreciated, for example, how well Google Wallet deals with this. It just automatically fixes it. You don't have to go and put in a new credit card. You don't have to do any of that. And the merchants using this properly also don't have a problem because the account updater will fix that for them or network tokens. But the ones who aren't using it properly, aren't really knowing their customer, aren't doing that, there's a good chance your subscription will fail. And the minute your subscription fails, there's, I think, a 50% chance that subscription is never renewed. So there is like just using data properly, payments data properly, and getting rid of that friction is actually not only good for your customer, it's good for your business, right? So that's an important thing that people should think about.
And I think it's also related again, like once again, to the actual persona, because all these tools out there today for the payment, they are great, but they are also very expensive. So when you go and you update all your vault with account updater, that's really, really expensive. So now you need to understand not just that, okay, you have a bunch of cards in your vault, great, but these cards belong to people. Are they coming back? Are they buying a lot? Did they buy once 2 years ago? Really worthless to go try to update their card. Can you update this card only when they try to buy? Sometimes yes, sometimes no. But this ability to keep the context, it's not just the transaction. It's not a credit card. It's Galit's credit card. Is Galit buying here a lot? Is she coming here often? How do you want to treat Galit? How do you want to treat Galit's credit card? Um, that all becomes very, very important. Otherwise, I'm hearing merchants saying, I turned off account updater. It was too expensive. It wasn't worth it for me. And anything you do today with payment that is not smart, it's not working properly. Either it harms conversion or it harms your cost. But something will get harmed if you are not working smartly.
Of course. So let's add another layer of fun complexity, right? We're talking about knowing your customers, but we have this whole new layer in agentic, right? Where you have an outsourced silicon version of yourself doing your shopping in the future, right? So I'm not your customer anymore. I'm the agent of your customer. And I think we're talking at human, not present, right? We've always talked about customer not present, a merchant not present, or whatever. We're not talking about human not present. How are we going to deal with this, right? Because now we need to know, not only is it you, is it your agent, and is it your agent authorized by you, and is the merchant who they say they are? Like, there's this whole layer of everyone needs to know who everyone is that 3D Skill didn't really solve. But we've now got another entity in it, which isn't even human.
So first of all, I like the human not present. I've not heard it before. So it's nice. But I think, yes, definitely the complexity gets even bigger now. And maybe the first obvious point is you have to be able to understand bad bots versus good bots. Good bots being these agents that are actually buying for your customers. Like maybe yesterday you saw me, but today you see the agent that is actually buying for me. If you don't understand that this is a good agent that is actually trying to do something valid, you will block them. And a lot of what we are seeing right now in the market is actually some of these agents are being blocked by the websites. And that's, again, if you have to remember, it's a bad customer experience because you have a customer, the fact that they ask an agent to do something for them, if they get upset or their agent get upset, they're not going to buy from you anymore. So the problem stays the same. So the first obvious one is you need to understand the data, the context, and who is really behind it. So there is an agent, but it's working for someone, and it's a good agent, and not to block it. Like, that's the number one, and we are still seeing at Forter a lot of in the industry we are seeing this activity being blocked by the ecosystem. But once you realize that it's good and you still know how to stop the bad ones, because the bad ones can also harm you a lot, everything fraud and abuse becomes easier now with AI. So once you understand that it's an agent, it's it's becoming harder to understand actually who is, like, there is much, much less data. So to me, John, it kind of feels like as the payment ecosystem, we've been doing such a big effort and a pretty good job in getting more and more data, from like 3DS, have more like more fields that are mandatory, and there is more data, and the data needs to flow, and more data sharing, and merchants understand why they should share as much data as they can and not as limited data as they wanted to do 10 years ago. And now agentic comes in and we are back to square one with very, very limited data points.
It does very much depend on the protocol that gets adopted, right? We got these sort of at least 5 competing protocols at the moment in agentic. I think if you look at the Google protocol, that actually has taken a lot of this into account. But then you've got, the elephant in the room is OpenAI has got their own protocol that doesn't, right? So we've got this, gap in the stage, and I'm hoping that they all come together at some stage and they take the best of everything and combine it into one protocol for agentic. But we will see. It's probably not going to happen. There's too many people who want to own this space. But I think I love in the Google protocol, the ability to record the entire chat session. So exactly when that person said, or that agent, or that person authorized that agent to shop for them. That's actually recorded and date stamped and everything else. That is something I think we've learned, hopefully, that we didn't start with no data and now we have data, but at least the idea to replay the transaction, I think, is super interesting. And let's see if it takes off. Let's see if it's the one winning protocol, but I hope everyone else adopts something similar. All right. So
Yeah, I agree.
do you have an example of industries where payment data has really been used well? In outside just purely for getting rid of fraud, but actually being used to do more than payments and fraud. So that payment data, that fraud data is actually being used to give better customer experience. And I'll give you a very brief example. It's not good or bad. It's like very early days in the gambling space. The merchants doing, online casinos, etc., would basically make the assumption that if you had a credit, not a debit card, then you were probably 18, because under 18s weren't allowed to get credit cards. But let any other examples outside that, limited space that you see this data being used well?
I think, again, like with all the industries, everybody is now trying to figure out how to provide better customer experience and to use the data that they have. And the data is there, but again, to understand the context and to understand that identities from the data, and who is really the same person and who is not, like many merchant can work by like account. That's obvious. But what if you have a lot of accounts? And sometimes you have a lot of accounts because you want to abuse them. Sometimes you have a lot of accounts because, like me, you always forget the password that you created before. So you just find yourself opening another one. And then there is like the guest checkout and how do you give good customer experience. Also in the guest checkout, if you want to give a guest checkout. Um, so I think in every industry, it plays a bit differently. Uh, I think retail today, because of, again, the competition, they really have to find their ways to like to look at the data and to see to understand the profile and like how much you're buying and what they want to offer you and how they can keep you happy. And that's also related now to agentic, because one of the question is like, how will they know that now it's agents, and how will they know it's really you, and how they can give you this like loyalty program, promotion, whatever they want to give you. That becomes the challenge. And I agree with what you said about the protocols. Let's see how that plays out. Um, but I think their ability to look at the data and understand who you are, and then make sure that you get that treatment that you want and the loyalty program that you deserve and the right promotions and the right like return policy and all of that, like that is for them, that is super, like super important.
We always ask this question at the end. It's time to get out the crystal ball. 5 years time, is the definition of payment data, payments itself change? And what does that mean for how companies deal with their customers? I think you've answered a lot of this already, but in 5 years time, how does this look different? How is payments data being used widely across the industry for a better customer experience?
So I think that the big change is agentic, and it's both agentic commerce and everything that is very easy to do now using AI. For example, car testing became huge problem because it's just really, really easy to do it now. It's really easy. Every 5-year-old can run a car testing. Um, so I don't think the payment data will change. I think the payment data as part of like agentic process will change, and nobody knows how it will look in 4 months. So definitely we don't know how it will look in 5 years. But I think that in 5 years will be after we will like there is a mess right now. So I want to believe that in 5 years we will be back with the ability to always understand who is interacting with you, and if it's an agent, who is this agent working for. So so this will continue to like the ability to understand your customers will remain. But I think the reality is nobody even knows how e-commerce will look in 5 years now. So I think it's like very, very hard to imagine like 5 years from now.
Okay, well, we'll draw to a close, but really appreciate your time with us today. And as per usual, if listeners have got questions that they would like answered, please send them through to us. We're happy to forward them on. But very much appreciate your time today, Galit. And I'm sure we'll see each other in one of these many conferences coming up, and listeners will see you everywhere, and we'll be keen to get more answers. So thank you for your time.
Thank you so much, John.
Cheers.